Good evening and welcome to Berkeley Haas Pavilion, the site tonight for a top 20 matchup in the ACC. It's for the first time ever, Cal and UNC meeting in a duel. Annalise Numanache, well, she has led the way for the Golden Bears. She's been outstanding during her junior year, and during her senior year, Gwen Fink has been one of the standouts in the ACC for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Well, hello everybody, along with former Division I gymnast Evan Hyder, I'm Tim Swartz. And Evan, for both these teams, they're right in the thick of the season. These are the dog days.
For both of these teams, they've weathered a mid-season storm. For Cal, that was 3 weeks on the road. For UNC, 3 meets in the last 12 days. The good news, they've both made it through. The opportunity tonight, both are still looking for that first 197 team total score.
Well, for Cal, this entire season, their freshman from Sweden, Tanya Paulson, has been pivotal.
Tanya Paulson brings an international elite look and a level of experience that is shining for the Cal Bears this season. The reigning ACC newcomer of the week, her ability to go 9-9 plus on every event is huge potential for the Cal Bears. Look at that handstand, the connections on beam, always tight. Her entry into the all-around a few weeks ago was critical to Cal's success.
And she was the ACC newcomer of the week. The ACC specialist of the week is with North Carolina, JoJo Valahovic.
JoJo is described by Coach Dana Durrani as a golden retriever energy type gymnast, and that energy is taking this UNC team to new heights. She's performing well for the judges too, number 6 nationally on vault.
JoJo, one to watch tonight. It is the first ever dual meet between California and UNC. Here are the dual meet format notes. Cal and UNC in the ACC for the second year. Last year, these two teams used the Elevate the Stage meet in Huntsville as their ACC dual meets.
All right.
Geraldine Stack-Eden, named the head coach of Cal in June of 2025, and it has been a whirlwind for her. It's just the second home meet for Cal. They've had 6 away from Haas Pavilion. This is just their second at home.
It's got to feel good to be back at home. Coach Stack-Eden told us it feels like it's been forever, but it's undeniable to have that home crowd energy, the comforts of home. They're using that to their advantage tonight, no doubt.
Well, no stranger to Haas Pavilion. Dana Durrani, who was the head coach here at Cal, then she went to Georgia, was in the private sector for 4 years, and then since she came to North Carolina back in June of 2021, she has transformed this program.
Dana Durrani talked about the process and what that means not only at UNC, but every program she's been a part of. It's something that she reminds her athletes of day in, day out. And with a ranking in the teens for UNC, it's obviously paying off.
This is pretty much the first time ever that North Carolina has been consistently in the teens, and Dana has come up to Berkeley before she was a head coach as well, competing as a member of the Arizona State Sun Devils.
This first rotation for UNC is going to be critical. It's actually their lowest ranked event nationally, so it'll be important for them to generate some momentum, especially in this tight ACC matchup.
And North Carolina 25th in the country on the bars. Cal's been solid on the vault, net 19.
We see their lineup here, and this is part of the strategy that's going to become really important in the back half of this season, as well as postseason competition. They start off with 3 Yurchenko fulls. That's a 9-9 start value. You want to set the table, lay a good foundation, and of course stick those landings. The back half is where they bump it up 3 10-0 vaults. Yurchenko 1.5 from their final 3 athletes. Again, hoping to ride some of that foundational momentum of the Yurchenko fulls before them in the lineup.
Cal, they've been to Seattle, Salt Lake City, Pittsburgh, Clemson, South Carolina, last week in Fort Worth. From here on out until the ACC championships, it'll be either meets at home, and they'll have one short road trip to Sacramento next week.
Yeah, it's another thing that's got to feel good for Cal at this point in the season. Settling in, and again, that cross-country travel is something introduced to the restructuring of the ACC, and with a team that is young, we'll have folks stepping into new events, new roles. as they have throughout this season. It's a big test, and they're learning a lot.
Cal lost 16 of the 24 routines last year. Casey Brown has stepped up big time on the vault, scored a 9.875 last week at the Metroplex Challenge.
Such beautiful body position off the table. The landing is most critical for Casey. Executes to what I would call nearly the best of her ability there. We saw a tiny bit of a rebound, extra momentum. We'll take another look at when she makes contact with the table. Initiates that turn a little bit early, but yeah, minor deduction on the landing. We talked about the importance of those Yurchenko fulls. It's a lower start value at a 9.95. I would put that right around the 9.85 range, which is a solid start for Cal.
Here's one to watch in North Carolina. Sydney Seabrooks, a career high 9.875 at NC State in Raleigh at Reynolds Coliseum. For the freshman, that's her best score on the bars this year. She is a really talented freshman.
Coach Dana Durrani talked about athletes who have the energy that allows the rest of the team to perform up to their level. Sydney, as a freshman, is doing that. She was a highly touted level 10 athlete, committing to UNC. She'll serve as the future of this Tar Heel program, starting now on bars. Hip cast handstand on the low bar. Toe on, toe off into the Maloney, really working to keep those feet together on that transition. They come apart on the Pac Salto. She's having to do an extra hip cast handstand here, needs to go over. Repeating again and chooses to just hop off. Bars coach here telling her to take a breath, especially these lessons in a freshman's mind. You just want to finish it, you just want to get back on the apparatus, taking her time to get the grips secured.
Carolina last week, they hosted NC State on Friday. Then Sunday, they went to Dallas-Fort Worth for that Metroplex Challenge. Ranked 15th in the country. Cal 17th. They're right. Both of these teams right on that threshold of earning a national seed.
Needs to hit this half pirouette. Gets it around, but that will still be a significant deduction. So we'll look to save it here. Look at the aggression on that handstand. You saw the lower back. She's balancing right on top of the bar. Staying aggressive here. Sets up for the dismount. Double lay. Wow, phenomenal stretch throughout that double layout dismount for Seabrooks. Unfortunate start, and we talked about it. Bars is going to be a critical point for UNC. They'll have to start fresh and pretend it's 5 up, 5 count.
25th in the country coming into tonight. That's their lowest rating in terms of an event. So after the 9.775 from Casey Brown, here is the freshman sensation, Tanya Paulson.
Another Yurchenko full here, needs to zero in. Tiny hop, and the other game we can play here is compare, contrast these Yurchenko fulls. You definitely saw the hips close. We'll take another look here. She makes contact with the table, rises up, starts twisting a little bit early, and I would say that throws off her rotation in the twist, closes those hips to get to her feet safely, and a hop back. I would say that score is going to be more vulnerable to deduction than Casey Brown, who clocked in at that 9.975.
We expect to see Paulson in the all-around. She is one of the candidates for ACC Newcomer of the Year. She's from Sweden, and she was actually found by the former co-head coach, Liz Crandell-Howell, while judging international competition. And, Cal is very happy to have Tanya here on campus. They're still evaluating the first score for Seabrooks here.
As we've seen time and again, when there are errors or multiple errors in a routine, the judges have to look extra hard at the deductions they're taking, making sure everything is accounted for. For UNC though, I would say it's to their advantage to start fresh. We see an 8.9 flash in arena for Seabrooks, so big pressure on Nev King now, especially with that bars average just over 9.7. She'll need a career performance here. Toe on, toe off, up to the Maloney, similar to Seabrooks. Absolute replica. Aggressive on the half pirouette that gave Seabrooks fits. King through a scalder into a double tuck dismount. Zeroes in. For Nev King, absolutely important to get right back on track, dancing it out a little bit. You see the legs come apart all the way through the feet, squeezes them back together. There's that half pirouette. Great stall right at vertical. Dismount here, winds up, and zeroes in. Tiny bit of adjustment, so there can be other forms of deduction rather than those steps or hops. Adjusting with your body and through your midsection is also something that the judges should be considerate of upon landing.
Annalise Numanache, career best, 9.875 on the vault at Stanford after the 9.775 from Paulson.
Needs to break that 9.8 number here. Another Yurchenko full. Plants it for Numanache. That is the type of energy Cal needs on vault. And if I'm being critical, that's exactly what Casey Brown could have done in that leadoff. Great to see Annalise pick up the momentum here. One thing I really appreciate is how tight her form is off the table. Slight leg separation, but then boom. They're together right until the landing. And watch it, you can see her toes raise up because she's back on her heels, but it's all core right there, squeezing through the midsection, through the back. Have to hold it for the judges to know that you have control of that landing. Gutsy performance there on that Yurchenko full. The score will go up.
Annalise didn't compete her freshman year, didn't compete until February 2nd of last season, so she has made a giant step up. Here's Claire Stipich on the bars, Kentucky transfer at a 9.775 last week in Dallas-Fort Worth on the bars.
9.725 for King before her, but floaty straddled Jaeger into the bail, taking her down to the low bar. She's already back up. Aggressive handstand sets up for this dismount. Extension throughout that double layout position, but hopefully we get another look at that double layout dismount and the landing in particular, because what you can see is some tap dancing there. Needed to absorb, really keep her shoulders there and show control of the landing. Highlight here for me, that straddled Jaeger, fully extended arms, a critical and sometimes overlooked aspect of releases in NCAA. Great angle to see the rise and the extension. So one hop back and then that left leg crept up a little bit. Tried to finesse it, get it under control for Stipich.
Annalise Numanache, it's a 9.9, a career best. Here's Jaden Silvers at a 9.75 on vault last week in Texas.
Keep her shoulders over her hips. Does a great job of that, minimizing a landing deduction with a small hop forward. This is the first of their 10-0 start value vaults, that Yurchenko 1.5. One more look here. A vulnerability of Jaden is the knees in the post flight. So right there, as she leaves the table, it's a separation and a knee bend throughout. We get to watch it in slow motion. Solid showing there for Silvers.
Last week it was a 48.925 for Cal on the vault. It looks like a much stronger start tonight.
Yeah, for both of these teams, definitely everything over 49 is going to be the goal, if not mid 49 across the board.
Stipich got a 9.825. Here's Paige Prejean, a senior from Houston.
They performed that to Tkachev with great turnover, allowed them to connect it right to the Pac Salto. Some ankle and foot form throughout. They're winding up for the dismount. Blind change, double front, finds it. They are going to be happy with that performance. And that is a level of difficulty that we do not often see. But athletes like Prejean know when they can show off a skill like that double front. Here it is, the blind change. They're going to wait to release the bar, really comfortably up over, and yeah, The team is already jumping for joy. Great set in the 4th spot for the Tar Heels.
They equaled a career best 985 last week in Texas, and that's another strong performance from Paige. 5th up for Cal, Kyan Mayhew after the 9.725 from Silvers.
Yeah, they hit Silvers with everything that I mentioned. Knees, leg separation, and the landing. Here's another Yurchenko 1.5. Better form from Kyan Mayhew on that vault. Still vulnerable knees throughout. The body position showed improvement from Silvers for the judges. Tight legs together, but that kind of omnipresent knee bend, and of course, the hop forward. Gets it back on track after the 9.725 though.
Kyan all ACC last year on the vaults, won it 3 times this season. Well, here's Gwen Fink, who has been rock solid for North Carolina this year. Top 25 in the bars. Last week had a 9.925, and she scored a 9.95 at NC State earlier on this year.
It's extended, it's floaty, and it starts right here. Straddled Jaeger. First handstand a little bit shy of the complete vertical, but hits it nicely in that overshoot to handstand. We'll set up for the dismount here. This is a highlight in every Gwen Fink bar routine. Double layout. Drawing some woos from the crowd behind us, and with good reason. Great set there for Gwen Fink. Hits this overshoot handstand, keeps it moving. And the dismount, we're gonna get another look. One thing I wanna make very clear, the point of release. So when she lets go of the bar, that informs everything that happens in the air. She times it perfectly right, and I think she had a slight movement back on one of her heels as you saw her body shift backwards, but no major concerns on that dismount.
North Carolina building at the bars. Prejean had that 9.9. Fink, we expect a good score. Here's Maya Wiley, 9.775 last week on the vault.
Closes out Yurchenko 1.5. Floats it up, almost got hung up in the air and thought she had a little bit more rotation. Has to scoop her legs quickly underneath her and resulting in a lack of rotation. Let's take a look at what happens here. Likely blocks straight up. Yep, initiates that twist. Had great height, I would say one of the highest vaults that we saw from Cal, but short of rotation. Again, when you're landing forward, if anything, you want to show that forward momentum as we saw from the other Yurchenko 1.5s. So we're going to see what the judges do with that under rotation as well. Some form considerations in the air for Wiley as well.
Fink on a 9.875, and here's one of the keys for North Carolina. Cami Rueda, she didn't make her debut until February 8th this year at NC State. She only was able to compete in 1 of 2 meets last week, but she is a really talented Tar Heel.
Dana Durrani is thrilled to have her back in lineups, and I can see why. It's tight, quick twitch gymnastics, noticeable leg separation on the Pac Salto, but otherwise she's been aggressive. She'll look to close out here. Shy of that handstand and past the vertical in the giant full. Tidy double tuck, but similar to what we just saw from Maya Wiley, hopping forward with that front-facing dismount. That means short of rotation, in addition to the hop forward, which will be a deduction. Takes it back up to the high bar. Rushes that handstand. You almost want to see it stall out. Give the arena time to gasp at holding it right on top of the bar. Still a solid set given those lead-off jitters from Seabrooks.
So that number for North Carolina, they're going to drop the Seabrooks score. It's going to improve a lot. Cal, a 49.
Solid start, improvement from last week, and what they left on the table is pretty obvious. Coach Jerlyn Stack-Eaton told us, need more sticks, at least 4 on each event. They didn't have that today, but great to see the potential of Annalise Newman-Achi with that highlight 9-9.
Just flashed it. The score in-house, Riata with a 9.825. After one rotation, Cal and UNC, we expected it to be a tight one in a very tight conference. It's going to be a good one here at Haas. We'll be back in a moment here on ACC Network. For Cal, first ever meeting between the two in a dual meet. And we're joined by the head coach of the California Golden Bears, Jerlyn Stack-Eaton. Coach, you got to double check. We're at Haas, right?
Yes.
It has been quite the whirlwind for you and your team. The second time competing at home. How fun has it been to be back here in Berkeley?
It feels really great. I'm just really proud of the team on how much they handled the adversity of competing 6 of the 7 meets away. So yes, we're very excited to be back home in Haas, and the crowd has been filling in, so we're really creating that energy.
Coach, talk about those Yurchenko fulls in the first rotation, punctuated by a career-high 9-9 from Annalise.
Yes. I think our vaults were really great. We're continuing to improve on them every week, and our landings are much better. So I just wish they would be a little bit more rewarded, but we can't do anything about that. All we can control is what we're capable of doing.
Landings are going to be huge. You mentioned leaving a few things on the table in that first rotation, but does that serve as fuel for you to talk about with your team going into the next 3?
Absolutely. I mean, we just want to continue to keep thinking how we get a half tenth better, and it's not just on one person, it's every single person. So we just want to continue creating that momentum and stay upbeat, and we're in control of what happens next.
After one rotation, it is so tight. This entire conference is so tight. What's it like competing in the ACC?
It's really exciting, honestly. Our first year here in the ACC, and just really excited to see how much more we can continue to represent Cal in the ACC.
If you had to zero in on one thing that you have been talking about this week with your team on uneven bars, what would it be, and what should we look for specifically there?
I think just with going after our landings and not shying away, overthinking things too much, just letting it happen like we do in practice, because it's really no different, it's just another routine.
Well, you've been away. We mentioned it's just the second time at Haas here. All around the country you've gone. How much have you missed your dogs?
Quite a bit. I know. They've been in the kennel, so I think they get a nice opportunity to be able to socialize with other dogs since they just pretty much stay in the house. But it is nice to have them, always that unconditional love when we walk in the door.
And some airtime for Maverick and Hank on our airwaves.
They're going to love it.
Thanks, Jerlyn.
Thank you.
Well, after one rotation, it is tight here in the ACC. North Carolina and Cal. Second rotations coming up after this. So they've been pretty much in that same range all year long.
Within a few tenths every week is a good place to be. It's safe, it's consistent, but in the back half of this season and with the rankings in the ACC as well as nationally being so closely contested, you need one of those 197s to pull away. UNC needs it badly right now, and if they can get it on the road, all the better.
Is this the best event for UNC? 10th in the country. Their best showing on the vault was that opener at the Florida Quad, 49.325, and they have some stars on this apparatus.
We're going to see another variety of 995 and 10.0 start values throughout this rotation for UNC, but they're using that to their advantage. And we want to see those scores build, ideally, from first to last, culminating with that exclamation point. But they actually have a standout performer in Kaya Forbes, who executes the Yurchenko full, arguably the best in the nation. So stay tuned for that.
And Forbes qualified for the vault in the NCAA Championships. That was the first Tar Heel at the NCAA Championships since 2018, part of the rebuilding project for Coach Durante in her 5th year in Chapel Hill.
And Tim, it's all the more important because she qualified to NCAA Championships with a 995 start value vault. That means it was that exemplary in the regional competition, that undeniable for Kaya Forbes, taking it all the way to the chip.
Going over to the judges, making sure everything's in order. And a lot of North Carolina fans here trying to fire up some of the Tar Heels. Paige Prejean after that 9-9 on the bars will start things off for UNC on the vault. Open the season in Gainesville with their career best, 95.
Just below that 9.8 mark as an NQS. Wow. That was a well-executed vault. They flare their body open as one of those exclamation points. We'll get another look here. Great contact and patience. Wow, that's tight form. They will be thrilled with how that started the second rotation for UNC, waiting for the number of Prejean.
Mentioned North Carolina very strong on the vault. California has been outstanding on the bars. They opened the year with a 49.425. It was the second best score on the bars in the country in week 1. And right now they're 9th in the nation with Mickey Adorinto, on the bars. Had a 9-9 last year.
Aggressive first handstand to the Ray, to Toan Takachev, named after American great Elise Ray. Right to the overshoot. It's a quick routine, and look at that snap. Wow, very aggressive. Another double front. That is huge for Adorinto. Getting emotional about it, you can tell in the leadoff. The best teams in the nation will start their events with 9-9 scores. This has potential to go that high. Drops out of the sky and zeroes in. Look at that point of release. And the shoulders are just perfectly over the hips to allow the feet to stay planted. Huge start for Adorinto.
She had just a few routines coming into this year, but Mickey has really stepped up. Nev King, after a 9.725 on the bars, here she is on the vault where she had a career best 9.8 last week.
Important to take a note from Prejean in the leadoff. Absorb that landing, minimize the deductions. Absorb, she did for Nev King. A little off balance. We talked about some of those kind of structural landing dismounts that you can take other than the steps and hops, but left the feet planted. Important momentum here for UNC. Body position there. Comes down a little bit weak in the knees, I would say, and manages to get it right back up. But always important to see that stick potential from these Yurchenko fulls, again, starting out of the 9.95.
There's somebody to get pretty good advice from. Maya Lazan, the ACC Gymnast of the Year last year, speaking to Maya Wiley.
Critical addition to this coaching staff. carrying on that Cal tradition, that Cal legacy. And as you said, Tim, what an amazing example to have at your disposal as these athletes do now.
Canarinto, a 9.875. Also, another all-time great at Cal, Maddie Williams, also on the staff.
Toe on, toe off to start for Maya. Leg separation in the 40-pack salto. So do a Maloney with a half turn. It's called a Van Leeuwen. Leg separation on that as well. Double A is going to be critical. Slight rotation. Hop backwards. Extra rotation on the double layout. Here we go. Another look here. Watch. Right there. She closes her hips in the last half of that second salto. You want to see the body position stay as extended as possible. And then put it right down and absorb that landing.
Gwen Fink on vaults. The senior from South Carolina after the 9.775 from King.
Just below that 9.8 NQS needs to absorb. Scoot back, and that's their first 10.0 start value in the third spot for Gwen Fink. Taking another look here. You see off the table, and then right before the landing in the last half twist, her knees begin to bend right here and scoots backwards. Short of rotation, but you can tell it scoots and then just tries to press in. So minimizing a potentially larger deduction by that quick scoot.
Fink came into this meet 19th in the all-around, was the ACC Gymnast of the Week in week 1. Annalise Numanacci has been just fantastic for Cal this year after the 9.85 from Wiley. Annalise, she was a bars specialist last year.
Starts with that toe on, toe off, right up to the Maloney. Look at the leg, foot, and ankle form. Exemplary from Numanacci here. A bit muscled on the half pirouette, but kept everything moving and did not sacrifice the form. Sets up for this dismount. Full twisting, double tuck. Short of rotation, one step forward and almost off kilter in the rotation. But this was exemplary. Backswing. They do come apart ever so slightly in slow motion. And let's take another look at this dismount. Watch where she releases. You can see the bar pinging just a little bit. Maya Lazan watched this routine as a teammate, knows it well, and now as a coach, every single skill. Doing it with Annalise. Solid one there as Lazan celebrates it.
Cal last week had their season high. The last 3 weeks, they've had their 3 highest team scores. Sydney Seabrooks had a fall on the bars to try to bounce back here on the vaults.
9.85 for the 10.0 start value of Gwen Fink. Here's the freshman. Yurchenko full, floaty, and this is what we talk about, absorbing and totally stabilizing your body. 2 separate landing deductions, unfortunately, there for Seabrooks. We're taking another look. Look at the flat hips. Wow, great block. Hop back and step back. And then it's time to salute. So the freshman, a bit off on both events that we've seen her on tonight. I would say riding the ship in the second rotation. She'll have important third and fourth events for herself tonight.
Numanacci had a 9.85. And Cal with their 4th routine here on the bars.
Cal hop to the straddle Jaeger, right to the overshoot. She's already setting up for the dismount. Double layout to a stick for Sage Melkonian. The team is pumped up about it. Another look here at the dismount. We're going to see some leg form and separation on that second salto, but she puts it down without movement.
Barsh hit a 9.925 at Clemson, won that event. And Cal went cross country to face the Tigers. Well, one of the best in the country on the vault, Jojo Vlahovic, 6th in the nation on vault, had a 9.925 against NC State last week, equal to career high. 5 times 9.9 or better on the vault in 7 routines this season.
She's a machine and arguably has been under-rewarded for a few of those Yurchenko 1.5s. We'll see if she can put it down here. Consistently has clean landings, 10 star value. Clean is the name of the game for Vlahovic. Tonight, it's a hop forward, but the rise in the air is exemplary. We'll talk about that rise because it comes from right there, locking with straight arms and skyrocketing straight up off of the table. Toes go up and then initiates the twist. Great patience and technique from JoJo.
ACC Specialist of the Week. We also expect to see her on the beam where she's top 25 in the nation as well. Melkonian, a really strong score, 9.875. And Cal has been solid on the bars. And here's the East Bay native, Casey Brown from Albany, just maybe 10 minutes, depending on traffic, from Berkeley. 25th in the country on bars.
This bars composition lends itself to the style and grace of Casey Brown. Skill selection, so important. First handstand, takes her time through the pack salto. The Van Leeuwen, I thought she doubted herself on that low bar handstand just a little bit. Toe on toe off, big dismount here. Thrilling the crowd in Haas Pavilion and zeroes in on that landing. Years of work on that toe on pike front half for Casey Brown. Embracing the bear head.
You stick a landing, you get a bear head.
Launches this out, but you can see in the air, she's able to see the ground for so long. The toe on toe off right before it. Watch her eyes. That whole time, she's saying, where am I in space? Where do I need to put my feet? Zeroes in. Those two things came together perfectly today for Casey Brown on uneven bars.
On the bar, she hit 9.95 last year. It has been a really good rotation on the bars for Cal.
Interested to see what the judges do. There are a few handstands that Casey Brown can be somewhat quick on, but that exclamation point at the end of the routine, no room for deduction there.
Well, watch this one. Kaya Forbes, 11th in the country on the vaults.
Talk about the block. This launches. And it strikes UNC again. The twofer on the landing. We're talking about deductions there. Unfortunate result for Kaya Forbes, but this vault, its beauty is undeniable. Blocks up, twists so quick, and then is able to kind of stall it out, but the shoulders were too far behind the hips upon landing. Needed to control that momentum. Even if you're taking a step, gymnasts can press in when you're taking that first initial step to right yourself. She was quick to stand up. Unfortunate result there. We'll see what the judges do on the Yurchenko full to close.
We'll see what Forbes gets after the 9.9 from Vlahovic. Casey Brown, a 9.875. And here's Tanya Paulson on the bars. 4 times 9.9 or better on this event. She's won it 3 times this year.
The rhythm is so Tanya. And this is a great example of what she can do. Wow, took that last handstand and the giant full to the brink. She had to work a little bit hard. There was some finesse going on, but the toe point, the landing, so many aspects in that routine are just cream of the crop. Right there, almost does half, stall half. Interesting technique, keeps the rhythm going. And again, Maya Lazan loves to celebrate a stick for the Cal Bears.
Cal has been so strong on the bars. With their season best, 49.425. And they'll get close to it. I don't think they're going to reach it, but they're going to be very close to it.
Great momentum shift from vault for Cal. again, this is a place they knew they could shine, and you have to use your strengths to your advantage.
Well, through 2 rotations, it is a slight advantage for California. The Bears, as they await the score for Paulson, with a slight lead over North Carolina. ACC Gymnastics late night from Berkeley. More after this. Joined by the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, Dana Durante. And Coach, welcome back to Berkeley. What's it like to compete here at Haas Pavilion?
You know, 2011, I think, was the year I was here. It was so fast and so furious that I honestly didn't even remember Haas. I remember the campus. It was beautiful, but we didn't, my husband and I both, we just didn't remember the setup. So it's great to be back. They've got a great crowd, great energy. I love it.
Coach, the leadoff on vault, Paige Prejean, they absolutely nailed it. Talk about what that Yurchenko fold does for your team and the rest of that rotation.
Yeah, really proud of Paige. We've been working on just finding that landing a little better, a little cleaner, and she did that today. I think it was probably an 05 versus maybe the 10th that it's been been giving up. So, and crushed her bars, by the way. So really proud of her and excited that she started herself strong on vault.
Got to give a nod to that double front on bars.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
It's tough, blind landing, and she does it like it's like she's a cat. She just finds her feet every time. So.
Some highlights and then some room to improve from this vault rotation today. Talk about the absorption that's going to be needed. Does it serve as an example of what you need to do in these next 2 rotations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we had some good vaults. We also had some landings we just couldn't quite get. Kaya Forbes is normally money in the bank, and she just couldn't quite stop moving. Same with Sydney Seabrooks. And so I think that's fine. We'll head over to floor. We'll be all right, but we need to really bring the energy and the performance that we had in Texas on Sunday here today, because this is a close meet and lots of fun, great energy. So excited for us to really dig in and fight like they did on Sunday.
Coach, Coach, you emphasized to us it's about more than gymnastics. It's about building these women up.
Sure.
And how special was it to take your team to the Golden Gate Bridge yesterday?
Yeah, we love it. We try to do something a little bit fun and a little bit unique to that area, and many of them had not seen it, at least in person, and so really excited we got to go out to the Golden Gate Bridge. We drove by the pier, by the wharf, by the seals. They were all excited to see all of those things, so glad we got to do a little bit of that yesterday morning.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so coming up next, we've got the 3rd rotation here from Haas Pavilion. North Carolina on the floor, Cal on the beam. It's a tight one here at Haas. Well, Cal taking the lead over North Carolina, a really strong 49-4 on the bars in rotation number 2 for the Bears. Well, they're going to, I think, take away the beam and take away the vault here at Haas Pavilion later on tonight, because tomorrow we have the Battle of the Bay on the ACC Network here from Berkeley. Cal hosts Stanford. The coverage starts at 6 Eastern. Both teams fighting for postseason positioning. Cal is one of the last teams out of the NCAA tournament, according to our ESPN bracketology. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. It's available on the all-new ESPN app as well, where you can also catch all of these ACC gymnastics duels and meets. Well, from that last rotation, it was North Carolina was solid on the vault. They came in as one of the best in the nation, and they really were pleased with JoJo Vahalovic, who had a 9-9.
This vault from Vahalovic is exemplary. It's number 6 currently in the nation, and she also showed us that she can manage that energy. She had great vaults and then some vaults with room to improvement before her, but really showed it off throughout. Great patience on the technique. Gonna get another look at Vahalovic here. Watch the rise and then the wrap. Zeroes in. Wasn't the stick tonight, but wow. Really exemplary. You see her looking behind herself. That means she's striving to keep her body position completely open, not sacrificing any form there.
Well, Tanya Paulson equaling a career best, 9.925 on the bars.
Yeah, from that first handstand to the pack salto, this routine was cooking, and then had to finesse that toe-on giant full, but the double tuck. Pointed toes right through the dismount. capitalizing on that anchor position and doing exactly what she needed to do with that 9925.
Now, Paulson wins the event. That's the 4th time in 8 appearances that she has won the bars.
49.4 in that rotation for Cal to complement just that 49.0 start. So you got to balance your strengths with weaknesses, but these last 2 events, Cal has to be all gas on balance beam and floor exercise.
Cal is 19th in the country on the beam, and floor has been an area of opportunity. They're 31st in the nation. North Carolina, they've been solid on the beam and on the floor. 17th on the beam, and we're about to see them after Cal takes the beam on the floor, but they're 19th in the country.
The first half of a gymnastics meet flies by, and then you have to settle in, reframe that energy, and know that it's going to be much more of a staccato rhythm from competition. Sage Malconian, the sophomore, will lead things off for Cal.
Had a 9.825 last week in Fort Worth.
First big test will be the series. Aced it, just like any Cal Bear would. Flip-flop layout. Daring switch ring jump there. Tiny body adjustment for her midsection. Uses her arms to snap things right into place. Split 3/4. Handles it well. Just like on uneven bars, I feel like Sage Malconian draws you in, and then the routine is over. It's such a blur, and it's beautiful. Tiny hop forward on the round-off, 1.5 dismount. Table setter does well for Cal on balance beam. Ever so slight arm bend on the flip-flop, but rises up nicely in the layout step out. Checks her hip just a little bit. Dismount, hop forward. Jerlyn Sack-Eaton's talking about pressing in, being aggressive on that dismount. It was a bit of a safe landing, and you can't blame Sage in the leadoff position. Handles it well, you do what you got to do.
So Maddie Williams just give her a hug. Cal, remember, they lost 16 of their 24 routines. Sage was just exhibition last year. This year she's taking a big step up. Jessica Naranjo, a junior from Florida on the floor, is scored as high as a 9.9 this year.
Heard Coach Durrani talk about the performance quality that they want to match from last weekend. Projecting out to the audience and pressing in. Touch the front foot. Double pike, had the lunge back, and the front foot did rise up and move slightly. Will be a landing consideration for the judges. I appreciate the risk she takes by doing a 3-element pass. The front layout was perfect form and position to launch her into the front full. The front tuck at the end of that one was just the flourish. Two-pass floor routine for Naranjo, and we've heard coaches talk about you're doing this two-pass floor routine. Judges are being critical of the other elements, understandably so, those difficult dance elements. Watch this double pike in the front foot. Guides back, just grazes the mat, but it did happen in the front tuck there. A little extra juice, but controls it into the lunge forward.
Naranjo from just outside of Miami. So Malconian a 9.825. And it's Sarah Lee's turn on the beam. The freshman from Southern California. He's had as high as a 9.9 this year on the beam.
front aerial, and you see she brings her arms down to keep the momentum flowing into the split jump. Solid connection. Struggles on the landing of the layout step out after the back handspring. You can take another look at that series. The back handspring had some issues, working through the full turn. Laser focus here, the switch half right to the beat jump. Taking a deep breath in this choreography moment. Definitely a fighting performance. Gainer full off the side, and look at the knees right there. That's the type of absorption you need when your shoulders are right on top of your hips, on top of your knees and ankles. That's a perfect position, but you need that absorption to be able to hold and handle. Yeah, the flip-flop, you see the back handspring, the first element starts to drift over to the side and has to work hard. Uses the toes of that left foot to right herself and gets a little bit of flair, a little bit of finesse on that gainer full off the side. She knew she fought through that one. Freshman learning important lessons.
So Naranjo, it's a 9.85 that's been flashed, and here's Gwen Fink on the floor, had a 9.8 last week for North Carolina. It's interesting talking to Dana Durante. Talking about all the success in North Carolina. 39 women's national championships, the third most ever in NCAA history.
Gwen Fink is an athlete who is very cerebral. She likes to think and know all the information that's going on. Some of her teammates this year have allowed her to compete more freely. The front through to double tuck, solid one for the senior. Dana Durante noticed a smile mid-floor routine in Fort Worth last week from Gwen. She said that was pretty remarkable from her previous 3 years. 2.5 twist as her second pass. Precision on that wolf jump, 1.5 is going to be a critical assessment for the judges. Off balance and a step forward there. Gwen Fink keeps you guessing right at the end there. Needs to add a little spice right at the end. Solid to her feet on all of that. I would say precision is going to come into play through that combination. This was the opening. That front foot stays planted. Here's the closer. This is the routine composition. Again, skills are rated on an A through E scale. Then there are minimums and requirements that you must fulfill to write your own story of a routine, if you will. When connections are broken, that means requirements come into play. Difficulty value comes into play. So you want to keep writing that story as planned.
Paulson up on the beam, the 22-year-old freshman from Sweden after Lee's 9.75.
Right shoulder dips down slightly on the releve full turn. The leg form on both of those elements. We talked about performing to the fullest extent of the skill. Side aerial, one of her hips had to snap into place. It keeps this leap combination moving. Switch leap to the switch half.
Wilson's competed in the all-around the last 4 meets, starting with the NC State one, and beam was the last event that she added.
Happy with the gainer full dismount. You notice, similar to Kurchenko full on vault, when they're closing their hips, That means they're piking down to get their feet to the floor faster. And it's interesting, in slow motion, you can see an almost kind of shake of the front foot on the front aerial. And right there, see the hips close. She lands a little bit staggered with her feet, but she's able to click those heels together and minimize any additional landing deduction.
And Paulson won the bars with a 9.925, and she's the ACC Newcomer of the Week. She is one of the contenders for the ACC Newcomer of the Year. Hannah Aoki has been on the floor every meet thus far for North Carolina, 5 feet from Columbus, Georgia, had a 9.7 on the floor last week at Fort Worth. In-house, we saw the score for Fink, 9.775, by the way.
This is performance quality from Aoki so far. First pass, front tuck. Through to the double back, and look at that's an example of absorption. Takes that lunge because she's in full control. These choreographic elements stand out for Hannah Aoki. So often in NCAA, we see really basic elementary movements, which are perfectly acceptable, but she ups the level. Front handspring, front layout, front full. If I'm being critical, the front full was right in the same plane as the front layout. You want to see that last element rise up, be that exclamation point at the end of the pass. Marrying those two aspects, dynamic tumbling and dynamic choreography. Best example we've seen of a floor performance from UNC so far, from Aoki. The first pass here, I can appreciate the front tuck step out, the leg and foot form, even on that setup skill. Right there, let's take another look at this. 3-element pass, right in line, stayed clean, but on the same plane. You want to see that front full rise to the heavens, something to be celebrated at the end. But that number should be the best one that UNC has seen so far.
Dana Durante in the background cheering on her freshman. Achi. She had a 9.9 on the vaults, 9.85 on the bars. It's been a strong night for her. She has been really good on the beam this year, has 3 9.9s.
Double wolf turn, aggressive, and maintains that position. So often we see gymnasts sacrificing the actual position of that skill to be executed in, not for Annalise. Flip-flop, layout, step out, sharp and secure. Ring position at the end of that jump combination. Slight tilt down to the right side. Uses her core to stabilize. Setting up for the dismount here. Absorption was necessary. Didn't quite bend those knees. Got up on her toes and hopped forward. But up on the apparatus, exemplary. And starting this off with authority and difficulty. Sharp. Squares the arms right down. Here's the landing. Needs to absorb. Landed with those legs almost already locked out. Difficult to control that momentum if you're not having your legs work on your side.
Annalise 15th in the country in the all-around. That's the best mark in the ACC. Kaya Forbes on the floor. Gonzales, Louisiana, just south of Baton Rouge. That's That's where North Carolina will be next week. They have quite the challenge. Number 2 LSU and number 3 Alabama at the purple and gold at LSU.
Kaya with that uncharacteristic vault tonight will look to redeem herself, and she does it with an E pass. Some foot faults before she stepped into the lunge. The judges have already made a fool of me. Hannah Aoki, 9.825. Not their highest, but a solid number in the bank. Next pass for Forbes. Presenting and projecting up off of it, but the connection to the music obviously leaves something to be desired, especially following a routine like Hannah Aoki's. But she's showing us our first 3-pass exercise. Closes with a double tuck. Yeah, that's the highlight there for Kaya Forbes.
She was the first Tar Heel to compete the NCAA championship since 2018. Kaya Forbes.
Another look at this first pass. This is an E-rated element, full twisting double back. Watch the landing, hops, hop, steps, and then lunge. So again, some vulnerabilities on these landings. That much more in control, absorbed, and takes that appropriate lunge forward. Double back and plants that foot. Dana Durrani, lots to celebrate from Kaya Forbes.
Dana, she was away from coaching for 4 years. She said her heart was broken when she was let go by Georgia in 2017. Worked 4 years in the private sector for What Drives Winning. Got to hear work with coaches like Brad Stevens, Gina Auriemma, then was part of executive search firm Charles Harris. And Dana is really enjoying her time in Chapel Hill. Annalise Numanacci with a 9.85 after the 9.85 on the bars and 9.9 on the vault. Great night for Annalise. Here's Adorinto.
Mickey Adorinto is riding that energy of the stuck double front dismount she showed us in the last rotation on bars. Kick over front, and right there, it's a deduction, so that means any hope of a connection is going to be broken. She's setting up here, likely with a cover series. Flip-flop, layout, step out, handles it well. Solid through the full turn. See her breathing. Hitch kick, switch half, into the split jump and beat jump. Saw after the switch half, shoulder dip down. She broke that connection. Put in another jump for good measure. That was a fighting routine. Gutsy and really working hard for every element, but seemed to be a little bit ahead of herself throughout. First element here, dips down, foot comes up, dances out of it. Flip-flop layout, super secure. That leap combination where she managed, put on that beat jump, straight into the dismount. Step back. Absorption is the name of the game. I keep saying it, but these tenths and half tenths that are being left on the table are erased by just pressing and absorbing that much more into the landing.
Nice score for Forbes, 9.875. And one of the best in the nation on the floor, 4th in the country on the floor, Sydney Seabrooks.
Dana Durrani talked about performance, and this freshman has embraced that aspect of collegiate gymnastics, drawing the crowd in. Massive double pike to start. Front foot drags back ever so slightly. But look at this level of comfort. Out there on the floor, quality of movement.
Debuted with a 9.95 at the Florida Quad. She's been 9.95 3 times this year on the floor.
Switch side half to a Popa. Jump combination. Phenomenal example of that front layout rising up as the final element of that pass. And Dana Durrani looking on, you can tell she's beaming with pride for not only the current state that this freshman is delivering on, but also the future. First pass, watch her set up. Little extra momentum as she grounds herself with that lunge back. Last pass here, watch it rise up and flares it out. We talk about those big vaults where they're able to extend their arms, open that layout position up, show it off. She does exactly that in the front layout after the 1.5 twist.
A 9.75 for Aderinto, and here's one of the best stories for Cal. And Abby Scanlon didn't compete her first 3 years due to injuries, considered medically retiring, and she found a passion and love with video editing. She works for Cal as a video intern, loves shooting all the different sports. Football, her favorite sport is women's soccer, and her goal is to get to the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles as a video shooter.
No slouch on balance beam either, a woman of many talents. A single wolf turn to start. And this is big for Cal. Couple 9-7 scores. We would love to throw one of those out. Very solid flip-flop layout series.
So she was a last-minute injury replacement on her first ever routine on the beam. She got a 9.95.
Switch half into the split jump. Movement on that first element will break the connection. Setting up now for the dismount. Repeating some words to herself. 1.5. She said, Evan Heider needs to talk less about absorption because I'm going to stick this with straight legs. Had one of those off balance, so you saw her shoulders come over, but first we're going to take a look at the series. Highlight sharp. Gets the chest right up. Here's that dismount. Stays on her feet in place with the 1.5. An adjustment for being off balance, but fights for it.
If you want to read more about Abby, calbearers.com. They wrote a really amazing story about her, and she is someone that you absolutely want to root for.
Standing with greatness on balance beam, former national champion Maya Lazon, now on the coaching staff.
Seabrooks a 9.925. That's her 6th 9.9 or better of the year on the floor. And here's Kimi Rueda, who has gone up to 9.875 in her career on the floor.
Great news for UNC. They're already over that 49.2 mark, 49.25 as it stands now. So this is just bonus for Rueda. Double tuck, and you can see the momentum kind of reverb through her body. I appreciate the 180 position on both of those jumps. Uses the momentum and the rebound from the 1.5 to launch the front layout up to close that pass. They're counting that 9.775 right now. That'll be right in that range. solid closer for Rueda, again, who has come into some of these lineups later in the season, and Coach Durrani is enjoying having some depth to test and put people in. Here's that first pass one more time. Let's take a look at the front foot. Yep, rises up and travels backwards. Slight minor deduction, about half a tenth. The 1.5 into the front layout. UNC does a great job at really showing off those layout positions in those combination passes.
Strong performance on the floor for UNC. Hannah Durante telling us she was so happy to have Tammy Rueda back in the lineup. She made her debut 12 days ago against NC State. North Carolina, they had faced NC State in back-to-back duels, and then they were in their quadrants in the Metroplex Challenge. So it's the first time they haven't faced NC State in a couple of weeks. It is a tight one here at Haas Pavilion. Final ACC duel for North Carolina and Cal, and it's been a barn burner. Final rotations coming up after this. For number one for the first time since 2013 when they went to the Final Four. North Carolina, a minuscule, tiny advantage over Cal. We expected a tight one in the first ever duel between North Carolina and Cal, and we've been treated to one.
Yeah, it's going to come down to this final rotation, and Cal, I would say, has a slight advantage. Floor at home is usually a card most teams would want to play. But for Carolina, they're no slouch on beam. 17th in the nation overall, so they've got to stay fighting and making up tens wherever possible.
It's the final weekend of dual meets in the ACC, and here are our ACC gymnasts of the week. You start across the bay with Anna Roberts, who right now might be the front runner for ACC Gymnast of the Year. She was the Gymnast of the Week.
Anna Roberts just does beautiful, easy gymnastics. In her final season, she is performing at a level where she's able to just show off on every event, and that's coming through.
Well, we're about to see JoJo Wahalovic on the beam. We already saw her on the vault where she had a 9.9. Her on the beam will be a lot of fun. And then also the newcomer of the week, Tanya Paulson, who's along with Annalise Numanacci doing the all-around today for Cal.
With the stars on critical events for their teams in this last rotation, it's also a bit of a precursor to a pressure situation. You know, having a meet this close, and the scores are broadcast. You don't have to look around too much to know how close this thing is. And so for these athletes, it's a great early test in the back half of this season.
Yeah, you just look up to the main video board here at Haas Pavilion. They've got the scores and showing that slight lead for North Carolina. We expect this one to be tight. I mean, 5 of the 6 teams in the ACC are separated by basically nothing. Stanford at 10 and North Carolina State at 22. Stanford will be at North Carolina State tomorrow in Raleigh. If Stanford wins, they will clinch the regular season dual championship before the ACC championships are held in Greensboro in late March. Beautiful night in the Bay, and it has been a lot of fun here at Haas Pavilion. The exciting conclusion, the final rotation, coming up next. It was an amazing performance of the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice, from Grayson Aquino, a member of the California Swimming and Diving Program. Geraldine Stack-Eaton, she heard Grayson perform it and said, hey, what are you doing Friday night? Come out to Haas. We'd love to have you perform it before the duel against North Carolina. Well, final rotations. North Carolina on the beam, they've been very solid. They're 17 in the country, and Jerrilyn Stack-Eaton, one of the all-time greats at Alabama, two-time national champion as an individual on the floor, where Cal's about to perform, and a national champion on the beam, as well as a two-team national champions trophies in her trophy case. You called it an area of opportunity. It's been the weakest event by far for Cal at 31, and again, Jerrilyn Stack-Eaton, she's a national champion on the floor.
First-year head coach, it's almost borrowing from that process that Dana Durante talked about. It is instilling the standards with which your athletes are performing day in, day out in practice and on the competition floor. It's a little bit about precision. That's going to be critical for Cal on floor today.
Well, we saw North Carolina on the floor, and again, Sydney Seabrooks was incredible.
Talked about the unity between performance in terms of choreography and tumbling. Sydney Seabrooks embodied that very well tonight in Haas.
Tar Heels of 49.325. That's their second best score as a team, aided by the 9.925 from Sydney Seabrooks. Tanya Paulson on the beam at 9.875.
It's every element. Again, she almost looks at things with a microscope in her brain, if I had to guess, and it's how can I make this one perfect? How can I make this one stand out? She shows that on the floor.
Now you see the standings for the NQS, National Qualifying Score. The big thing, too, we mentioned earlier, the top 4 teams, they'll be at the 7 o'clock evening session at the ACC Championships. The bottom 2 teams will be in the morning or afternoon session at 2:30. There's been some changes to the NQS this year. And Evan, kind of big picture question for you. Have you noticed any changes with what the numbers are like, or just where the teams are?
Tim, to be honest, nothing catastrophic. If anything, it holds teams to a standard where almost, if not every performance, has implications on your NQS. This year, they're counting more scores into that final NQS number, and I'm a supporter of it. We struggle in sports a lot, or specifically in gymnastics, to find these moments that matter. We should not be able to toss aside so much. And if anything, there's also conversation to where, why don't we have every routine count into that team score? So there are strategies and ways of thinking that permeate the sport to push it to the next level and help these athletes succeed on the competition floor without having a fallback plan in their back pocket.
Jerrilyn Stack-Eaton told us before our first meet here at Haas that she really liked it. Again, we mentioned earlier, Cal has been everywhere. They've been to Seattle, Salt Lake City, Pittsburgh, Clemson, Fort Worth. They went across the bay to Stanford. This is just their second time at Haas Pavilion. In North Carolina, they've had a whirlwind week. This is their 4th meet in just about 14 days. Sydney Seabrooks, she'll lead things off on the beam. Last week, it had a 9.775 at the Metroplex Challenge.
Freshman in this leadoff position, and you can tell she's a gymnast who wants everyone to watch just by that full turn. Stayed on releve, picked the foot out. Unfortunately, had a bit of a balance check, but keeps it moving. Here's the series. Another check, so the freshman is fighting. Taking those deep breaths. Switch side, right in line. Collecting herself before that kick over front. Perfectly square, and the arm position allows her to immediately connect that to the beat jump. After some early flickers, she's locked in, ever so slightly short of rotation, but the body position and leg form on the 1.5, something to note there for Seabrooks. Here's another look at the series. The hip and the shoulder dip down to that left side. Great example of square and fluid connection.
And North Carolina, a 49-3-5 on the beam last week in Fort Worth, where all these teams want to end up. That's what the NCAA championships are. And they're trying to build off of that. It was a season best. Casey Brown leads things off for Cal on the floor. She debuted at Stanford on January 19th on the floor, and she scored a 9-8 last week.
Casey Brown, fluid movement all the way through her fingertips ahead of this first pass. Bounder front Rudy covers a lot of the floor in those two elements. Great position in both of those leaps. Next pass for Casey Brown. Combination. To 1.5 Branny to straddle jump. Solid table setter. Final pass. We'll take another look as the team celebrates a solid leadoff in the books. Watch this combination. Round off 1.5 to a Branny straddle jump.
Let's see what Brown gets. It's been a big couple days for East Bay natives. Figure skating gold. Home here in East Bay. 9.775 for Sydney Seabrooks. That was the first routine for North Carolina. Claire Dippick on the beam had a 9.9 a career best last week.
Pulled out my TI-89 calculator and looked at what North Carolina would need for that 197. It's a 49.4, so a bit of an up from the 49.35 they had recently, but definitely attainable. That 9.775 doesn't disrupt that plan, but they need to build. And build they will with elements like that triple series, 2 flight elements, layout back step outs after the flip flop. Switch leap, straddle jump, keeps her upper body slightly tilted forward. Would love to see that presentation straight up and down over the bead. She's hitting those positions nicely. With that difficulty, sets up for the dismount. Flip-flop into a gainer full, tiny step back. Hits the layout position just as they showed us on floor exercise. This attention to detail, striving to open those hips on these dismounts. And on elements like this, striving to do the extra difficulty. Yeah, you could see even from this angle, slightly off balance and use that core to right the ship. Hop back on the dismount.
Casey Brown with a 9.825 to start things off for Cal on the floor. Nice. Numinachi started competing on the floor this year. Her career best is 9.875.
Borrowing from her beam routine there, double wolf turn to start. Crescendo of the music. Know something big is coming. It's a front double full. Oh, excuse me. Rudy into a stack jump. She found the camera on that one too. angle from our crew here to show that side position on those leaps. Getting the back leg up near her head on the ring position. 180. Next pass for Numanacci in the all-around. Dramatic finish there for Annalise Numanacci as she closes out a great day for herself in Haas. She's happy to be home. Starts with that double wolf element. You can see she actually wears a rhythmic gymnastics shoe on her foot to allow that turn to flow a bit easier. Great angle there. Saw the jump actually traveling backwards, so that indicates a little bit of lack of control on that. Want to see it rise straight up off of the floor. Here's that final pass, 1.5 front layout. Finesse that a little bit from this angle as well. Saw the 1.5 much higher than the front layout. Timing was off. Assistant coach Rich Stenger could say maybe be a little patient there. Want to use the bounce of the floor to help yourself up.
Stipek got a 9.85, a really good score for North Carolina. Hannah Aoki, two-time state champion in Georgia on the beam, the freshman from Columbus, Georgia.
And with a meet this close, 10th and a half heading into the fourth rotation, you can almost view this as a head-to-head battle. So that 9.775, 9.825 leadoff, Cal gets a little bit of ground back right there. So important that UNC stays aggressive, and that 9.85 from Stipek sets up Hannah Aoki and the rest of this lineup well. Switch leap, straddle quarter. I appreciate her patience on that switch leap. The back leg was almost floating in midair as she prepared to connect it. Has a light quality to her work. And that, speaking of finesse, she actually broke a little forward with some extra momentum, but from my view, used the arms to get it right into that jump. We'll see what the judges do with that one. 1.5. Shoulders lean over the hips, hop forward for Aoki. But the Tar Heels continue to fight on the potentially problematic balance beam. Here's this series. Right down the middle. Switch leap into the straddle quarter. Well connected. Yeah, saw that shoulder dip down, but used it to her advantage. Kept the arms moving in an almost unexpected way. Dismount there. And that was actually the first glimpse we saw. You saw her hips close, and that's what allowed her shoulders to actually get in front of her hips. Want to maintain that extended position. So often we hear coaches say, put your body in the position it needs to be in to land perfectly.
Numanacci got a 9.8, so all 4 events 9.8 or better for Annalise. And fresh off a career best 9.85 on the floor last year. Here's Jaden Silvers.
Jaden, a product out of the club in Southern California. Came to Cal early and has settled in to adding new events to her repertoire, floor exercise being one of them for this season. Starts with the double tuck. Saw the front foot drag just ever so slightly with extra momentum. Next pass for Silvers. One and a half front layout. Took that 1.5 sky high, I would say, from this angle. Kept the layout right in line with it. Interesting technique, though. Uses her patience and the bounce of the floor to keep everything under control. There's that first pass right from the round off. It's a double tuck. See that front foot move along with her momentum. Here's that last pass. Hugs all around. 2 graduated members now on the coaching staff, Maya Lazan and Maddie Williams. Former teammate, Jaden Silvers, Coach Stenger there as well, rounding out Geraldine Stack-Eaton's coaching staff.
Such a challenge for Coach Stack-Eaton. She was hired June 12th. Very, very late in the cycle. It's been she's had a lot of fun doing it. She's learned a lot, she's told us. But to be a first-time head coach is tough enough, but it was about a month to 2 months later than everyone else got hired.
She also told us she's very competitive, and you have to think she sees those challenges in front of her and locks into that athletic mentality that made her a national champion and says, all right, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it quickly.
Cal won't leave the Bay Area again until they go to the ACC Championship. They were going to be at the Elevate the Stage event next week at Huntsville, Alabama, but Geraldine Stack-Eaton, who did not make the schedule, said, you know what, we got to peel back a little bit for our athletes. Okay, a very strong 9'8". Here's Gwen Fink.
First major test for the senior. Switch leap, switch leap. Deep breath ahead of the series. Wow. Her feet were tap dancing all around throughout that series. I can't believe she kept that on. Obviously, a bit of a deduction at the end of it, but wow, that's remarkable and gutsy from Fink in the midst of that series. Taking a lot of deep breaths after that one. Shows off the layout position after the gainer full. I saw a tiny foot movement, maybe of her left foot on that dismount. Everybody kind of giving her some knowing nods.
The ACC champion last year on the beam, 9'9" she scored. That was tied with Maya Lazan for the championship.
Watch right here. Wow, that right foot. Maybe she got a big toe to push off. That will definitely disrupt the flow of things, but thus is gymnastics. It's not always going to be perfect no matter how much you're pursuing it, and it's about adapting to that situation in a millisecond. Phenomenal example of what gymnastics is about at the collegiate level from Gwen Fink.
She shared the title last year with Maya Lazan on the beam. She was almost perfect. Had a 9.95 last week at the Metroplex Challenge. Floor specialist, CJ Konecki, the sophomore from Denver, 3 times 9.9 or better this year on the floor.
Having a little trouble in the final warm-up. Needs to be patient on this pass, let it happen, and rise. Sophomore handles it well, running Rudy to the layout back step out. Switch half to the wolf full. Like the compression in the wolf jump brings those legs up to hip height, almost to the chest. 1.5 Rudy. That was an example of the timing there. That Garani, covered a lot of ground right at the end. Still managed the jump. Really enjoy the way she uses the music to hit those final beats of the routine. Gets her chest bump in from Sage Melkonian. Big 1.5, and you can see That Barani did not rise up as much as it has in the past, but stays in the moment, keeps everything under control, and makes sure that she gets that straddle jump into the air nicely. Great example of it rising perfectly vertically up in the air.
Jessica Naranjo taking the beam after the 9-8. It's been a solid performance from Gwen Fink and company for UNC in this final rotation.
UNC making visible errors, but fighting through all of them, not giving up. And in a dual meet position like this, so important. Wow. Another difficult series from the Tar Heels here. Naranjo, front aerial to layout back step out. That switch half left her shoulders in front of her hips. Didn't really rise up to the potential of that leap, but I do really appreciate the rhythm that she put in there. 1.5. Again, the word is fight for the heels, digging their heels in on that 1.5 dismount.
By the way, real quick, it was a 9-9 for Kaneki, so we are tied.
Huge energy shift from Cal. Like I said, floor at home, it's a great place to be. You have to rise to that occasion. But the Tar Heels not going out quietly, if that is the case.
This is going to come down to the last routine. That's what happened at the ACC finisher last year for Cal, and Nia Lazan hit a 10 on the floor against Stanford to clinch it. We might need a similar finish here tonight. Kyan McHugh on the floor, had a 9-9 on the floor at the the NCAA Championship Finals back in 2024 when Cal was the runner-up.
Rocking Unity in her hair in the back if you catch a glimpse of it. And wow, a glimpse of that first pass is also a beautiful thing. Front double full, front pike, nailed it.
Wow, Naranjo got a 9-9 on the beam for UNC, keeping the pressure on Cal.
Kyan having some fun. Everything has been pretty precise to the level that Kyan is able to perform. Critical last pass, 1.5 front layout, sharp movement there. Like the attack, the aggression from her. With a 9-9 before her, I think the judges will be forced to go up ever so slightly for Mayhew, especially after that first pass. Wow, she rose to the occasion in the 5th spot for the Bears. Here it is, front double full, front pike. Oh, saw ever so slightly a movement of that right foot, and right there steps comfortably into the front lunge after the 1.5 front layout.
Well, it comes down to this. Jojo Valahovic, the ACC Specialist of the Week, one of the top 25 performers on the beam, had a 9.95 last week against NC State, a career best.
The quality of JoJo's gymnastics is rooted in basics, and that is the starting point for which all of these skills develop. Flip-flop, layout, step out. Shoulder dips down ever so slightly. She'll take a hit from the judges on that first series. And as extended and flowy as those leaps were, I did not see 180 perfectly from this position. almost identical landing to her 1.5 Yurchenko on vault. Shoulders just a tiny bit over the hips, hop forward for Valahovic.
We are tied again, by the way, real quick, Evan.
Yeah, great angle. You can see it drift over. She has to use her core to right that shoulder. Tiny hop forward, but things like that, that's arguably a 10th left on the table there. So Valahovic leaving the door open. Tanya Paulson will need to answer.
You can keep your TI 84 calculator away. It's who gets a better score, Valahovic or Paulson. Valahovic, the ACC Specialist of the Week, and this is the ACC Newcomer of the Week, Tanya Paulson. So while Paulson's competing, we may get the score from JoJo. We already got it. It's a 9-8. So Paulson, 9-8 to tie, 9-8-5 to win here for the Bears.
Well, 9-8-2-5 to win.
2-5, yeah.
Don't forget about that tricky quarter 10th, and this is just an art exhibit. Front tuck through the double tuck. From this angle, looked like she kept the front foot planted. There's an intensity and intentionality. Every movement in this exercise was something that she was noted for, competing on the international elite scene. And I'm so delighted to see that carry over into college for Tanya. After that jump combination, coaching staff very thrilled. This is one of those aspects of precision that they wanted improvement on. Extra juice on the double pike, saw the front foot travel back as she lunged. Ending in a subtle flourish. Tanya Paulson pumped up about it, and based on what we saw on the floor and the scores that preceded her, I would say that Cal should walk away with the W here over the Tar Heels, ever so slightly. One more look at that first pass. Fights for it. And the final pass, this was a vulnerability on this landing. Got those shoulders and chest up so she could be completely vertical up there. We'll wait for the number.
No matter the count number, North Carolina, they have their highest score of the year, 196.75.
Something to be happy about. Again, if you're not going to walk away with the W, the 197, you've got to take improvement. So the wins are evident. Sometimes you just need to look a little bit closer.
The ranking 17 for Cal, too. That went up 3 spots this week, so they are starting to peak for Geraldine Stack Eaton and company.
Everybody on the Cal side waiting for that number to show.
9-8-7-5 for Tanya Paulson, and Cal narrowly defeats the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Wow, that came down to it, but it speaks to the quality of these teams and what we're seeing in the ACC and also the nation this year. The parity is closing, and we're dealing with matters of quarter-tenths of a point.
And both these teams, they wanted to try to break or get to 197. They both got very close.
Indeed.
So Cal defending their Haas. 2-0 here at Haas Pavilions, wins over NC State, and now North Carolina. Tanya Paulson wraps it up with a 9-8-7-5 on the floor, and yes, Cal loves it. A strong 49-3-5 on 4 for Cal. Gets them the victory in the ACC against North Carolina. The top 20 showdown in the ACC here at home against North Carolina. First ever dual meet between these two, and it did not disappoint. Thanks for joining us here on ACC Network. Some late night gymnastics in the ACC here on the West Coast as California victorious over North Carolina. Tim Swartz, Evan Hyder with you, and the celebration starting here for Cal. Tanya Paulson, it came down to the final routine, and the Cal Bears were able to pull it out.
The experienced freshman rising to the occasion. Like we said, you could tell that this was a close race, but the other thing that Tanya had on her side was a lineup of competitors ahead of her who hit to pretty much the best of their ability. Some things still left on the table for Cal, but to put together a complete showing like that has got to be something that the team and the coaches are thrilled with.
Third all-around victory of the season for Tanya Paulson. As Evan mentioned, too, she scored a 9.875 to finish. CJ Konecki, Ken Mayhew, they had 9.9s right before her on the floor, and it was a 49.35 overall for Cal. Very strong on the floor.
Yeah, Tanya Paulson across the events was very even and showed us the glimmers of 9.9 plus. On vault, I would say steady start, this hip position, but look at that distance, absolutely launches. Bars showcasing that toe point and the intentionality of all of her skills, rising so effortlessly up there. And this was a gutsy dismount, pushing through the last half pirouette and spreads her wings before zeroing in on that landing. Balance beam so smooth through the series and finds the landing there. Floor exercise in the anchor position. 2 passes, put that first one down with authority, and the last one here, a little extra juice, but good enough for a 9.875 to close and seal the win for Cal.
And just like that, through the magic of television, Tanya Paulson joining us. Tanya, congratulations. What a tight duel going into that final routine. What was going through your head?
Well, first I was just proud of my teammates. They did an awesome job on floor. I mean, Kai and CJ, they all did amazing. Annalise, Casey, I'm just so proud. I saw the scores and I went, I have to bring it home for us, and I did my best, and I'm just happy for our team. We did so good.
That's what NCAA competition is all about, leaving it all on the floor. Talk about the energy of being back home and what you were focused on during that floor routine.
Honestly, I just wanted to enjoy my experience. Being in Haas, it's amazing. There's a lot of people here today, and so I just wanted to enjoy myself.
What has been the most surprising thing to you about collegiate competition so far?
Having a team that cheers for me. I'm used to being alone in a World Championship arena, and now I have 14 girls just being happy for me. I can't even explain how good that feels.
Moving as a unit onto the postseason, talk about your focus as we get closer to those postseason meets and what you all are talking about in the gym and how to get there.
I mean, we have so much more to give. Obviously, we can improve. We're not perfect. We're striving to be perfect, and I think you can see that we're getting better and better. We work hard every day, and so you just wait and see what we're going to do in the future.
Congratulations, great performance.
Thank you so much.
That was our gymnast of the meet, Tanya Paulson. Looking for Cal, and what's forward, it is all Bay Area. They'll take one trip up to Sacramento, but other than that, we'll have it for you here on ACC Network Extra at Haas Pavilion.
Indeed, and they're going to look to settle into this energy. As we saw, they're able to turn the tides being back at home, and from here, you just build.
Yeah, have another crack at Stanford. That will be on March 13th. And then after that March 15th quad meet, they'll go to Greensboro, North Carolina for the ACC Championships. Any final thoughts, Evan?
Overall, I think, like we mentioned, maybe not the exact landmark result for either team that they're looking to walk away from, but improvement is improvement. And like Tanya Paulson mentioned, keep looking for what we're going to do next because it's getting better and better.
It came down to the final routine, and Tanya Paulson with a 9.875 clinches things for Cal, 196.8 to 196.75. The Bears defeat North Carolina. For Evan Hyder and our entire crew, I'm Tim Swartz. Reminder, we'll be back for more Cal Gymnastics on Saturday, March 7th, as they host Boise State. To watch this entire duel on replay, as well as all of your ACC events, you can check it out on the ESPN app. So long, everybody.
with a 9.9 for North Carolina, Jessica Naranjo. And best for floor with a score of 9.925, North Carolina's Sydney Seabrooks. And the best all-around score with a 39.45, Cal's Tanya Paulson. And now for our final team scores. North Carolina, 196.75. California, 196.800. Fans, thank you for attending tonight and supporting Cal Women's Gymnastics. We look forward to seeing you back here at Haas Pavilion Saturday, March 7th, when the Boise State Broncos come to town. The meet is set for 4 p.m. Get a complete recap of today's meet and check out the upcoming Cal Women's Gymnastics schedule only at calbears.com. Thanks for your support of Cal Athletics. Get home safely and go Bears!